Hello and welcome to Non-Inkables. Big news today. In Lorcana, they published a errata for Bucky. So this was published this morning by Rochelle, and it is titled Errata Update. So changes coming with Shimmering Skies. I'm going to read it verbatim, and then we will discuss. So it says, hello, Disney Lorcana TCG players. We have an announcement regarding a card that will be receiving errata in all formats, starting with the Shimmering Skies hobby release on August 9th, 2024. Errata is not something we take lightly or want to do too often, so we want to give some context for our plans. Errata and bans going forward will be planned to be effective at the hobby launch of the next set, unless a change is deemed immediately necessary. We want to preserve a fun environment for the game and address cards that cause negative experiences for players at all levels. We're looking for ways to make printed versions of the updated cards available to players later this year, and it will be corrected in any future printings. Starting August 9th, 2024, the following card will be changed as follows. So it is Bucky, Squirrel Squeak Tutor. It was originally released in Set 2, Rise of the Floodborn. They are changing the ink cost from 2 to 3 ink, still inkable. They are removing the keyword ward, and they are updating the ability Squeak. So it will be updated to whenever you play a Floodborn character, each opponent chooses and discards a card from that, to whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you use Shift to play them, each opponent chooses and discards a card. And the context, it says, context, Ursula's return gave Bucky players the opportunity to discard multiple cards from opponents' hands as early as turn 2 while building up a board that was very difficult to interact with, creating a stressful environment that just wasn't fun. Ward also made Bucky close to untouchable, taking away player agency to deal with a powerful and cheap threat. For these reasons, we are increasing Bucky's cost to 3 and removing Ward from him. Additionally, we feel that requiring Shift better represents the Floodborn experience, as many decks utilizing Bucky have mostly ignored using the Shift mechanic, outside of one sinister bird. And then, in the end, it says, please keep in mind, for challenge events, Shimmering Skies will be legal on August 30th, but the errata will go into effect immediately, so the challenge event in Toronto on the weekend prior will have the errata in effect, even though Shimmering Skies is not legal for the event. We apologize for missing the mark on this card and hope you understand why we're taking steps to preserve a fun experience. Lastly, as we'd like the Disney Lorcana TCG to remain a welcoming experience for players new to TCGs, please be understanding and helpful with those who may not follow changes like this. It can also be tough to keep up with, so we're working to provide an update on the app as soon as we can. Thank you for your support of Disney Lorcana TCG Global Organized Play Team. Okay, so let us unpack. So first of all, this goes in effect August 9th, 2024, which means that it does not affect the Fort Worth, Texas challenge. However, it does affect Toronto, Las Vegas, and Seattle. It does not affect the Ursula's Return Set Championship because those are all happening in July, but any future set championships it does affect. And what exactly was changed? So many people, I feel like in the past few weeks, there has been a trend online of like ban Bucky because he's too overpowered and he makes the game not fun, because it's hard to have fun when you aren't playing the game because you have no cards in hand. And so they increased the cost of Bucky from 2 to 3 ink, and then they removed his ward. So prior, Bucky had ward, so the only way to remove him was if you could do like a total board removal, or if you played like a Beat King Undisputed or Lady Tremaine, where the opponent has to choose the character and not the person who isn't playing Bucky. So he was basically unmeduceable, unbrawlable because he had ward. And then they also added that in order for his ability to trigger, you had to use Shift play the Floodborn character. You couldn't just play the Floodborn character outright. And I think a lot of people had brought up that because Bucky is so cheap, and there were so many cheap Floodborn characters, like there was Aladdin, who was a 3 ink Floodborn, and Diablo, who's a 3 ink Floodborn. And prior to this, the cheapest Floodborns were 4 ink, so like Jafar Dreadnought and Donald Duck. So now the Bucky was useful much earlier. So like in set 2, there were a lot of Buckys being played for green steel. And then in set 3, because there weren't any Floodborns really until turn 4. A lot of people moved away from playing Bucky and made Green Steel more into like a Prince John discard, where you sing the discard like Sudden Chill with either Ursula or Ursula Deceiver of All, or you play Ursula and get rid of a song, that kind of thing. But since there were so many cheap Floodborns in set 4, all of a sudden Bucky became very, very powerful. 1, because you could start discarding your opponent's cards so early, and 2, because there was no way to get rid of them. And so I think they're trying to remedy that. Also, I think likely is that in future sets, they may have more cheap Floodborns, and those would definitely, in the old version of Bucky, trigger Bucky and discard your opponent's hands. And I think Disney Lorcana in general is just trying to, I don't think that they are focused so much on competitive play compared to some of the other card games. They really wanted to make it fun and inviting for everybody, including people who don't normally play TCGs. And I think Bucky was kind of ruining that experience. I mean, even in our own house, like I call Green Steel the divorce deck because it's just not fun to play a card game when you have no cards in your hand. Personally, I think that maybe they made too many changes. So I feel like they nerfed the card. So this is a term I should define. Nerf is like when you make a card less powerful. And there's basically 2 options. So nerf is a word that means to make something weak or ineffective. And in terms of a card that people think is overpowered, there's 2 things that the developer can do. They can either nerf the card, so make it weaker in this case, or they can just ban the card outright and just say this card is not allowed in competition. And many people think that it would have been better for this to just be banned altogether. But I think that's hard to say because you don't know what cards are coming. And maybe in the future, there's a chance that this could work again. Maybe they want us all to play a lot of morphs and shift. I don't know. Because I could see a case where you would play morph on 2. And then on 3, you play Bucky and you shift your Floodborn character onto morph. And you use one of the Floodborn shifts that doesn't need you to pay ink because you've spent 3 ink on Bucky. You could use like the Flotsam Jetsam that shifts, or there's Li Shang that shifts where you discard a character card. There's, I think, Aladdin that shifts. There's because they introduced the new shift mechanic where you can shift with like discarding a location card or a character card or a song like Diablo. I think maybe they want you to do that kind of shifting because that really is like the whole thing with the Floodborn cards is that they have this shift mechanic, and I think they want to kind of emphasize that. But yeah, it's interesting to see the reaction. I feel like everyone who doesn't play Green Steel is like, yay, finally, Bucky has been banned, basically, because he's basically unplayable. And then most of the Green Steel players are like, this is horrible. Why are they just targeting us? I'm not playing Lorcana anymore. I've seen people go as far as that. And then I think there's also a separate category of people who are like, ooh, are the Bucky cards going to be very expensive now because it's an errata, so all future prints of this will not have the original text and it becomes like a collector's item. I know for our TCG store, someone just bought 36 copies of Bucky. It was before the price went up. I think because we have a pro store, it like automatically adjusts to market price, but I don't think it had gone up yet. But yeah, someone bought 36 Buckies from our store. And then we have a couple Bucky promos, and those really jumped in price. So the Bucky cold foil before today was around like $1.15. And now currently market price for that cold foil is $2. It seems like the non-cold foil is still around the same price. It hasn't jumped up. The promo version before today was $3. And currently the cheapest one you can buy is $11. So it went up like 3 times, more than 3 times. Yeah, so definitely affecting the secondary market for Bucky. So those are the major changes. So basically, Bucky will cost more to play. He no longer has ward, and you have to shift to trigger his squeak effect. And this will start August 9th. So any tournaments prior to August 9th, you can still use the old Bucky. Any tournaments after August 9th, the new Bucky will technically be the official one. And they did say that they were going to figure out how to distribute the new card And then also they're going to correct it in future printings, which maybe means they're going to reprint Floodborn. I don't know, but it's a possibility for sure. And so, yeah, I wanted to just do a quick update going over this. Do you guys have any questions? What are your thoughts? Are you team ban Bucky, or are you team how could you do this to Green Steel, or are you team it doesn't matter? Check out our TCG Player store. There's no more Buckies on there, but if you want any other cards, we probably will have it. Keep shuffling, and hopefully you don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables like me. And good luck on your set championships. And you may see more Green Steel just because people want to do a last hurrah for this, being able to play this version of Bucky. So be prepared for that. All right, bye.